Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dan, and welcome back to my kitchen for another printer review video. Today I am joined by the amazing Elegoo Centauri Carbon 2. I have to say, I am extremely excited about this printer, considering the fact I've been using Elegoo's Centauri Carbon 1 for well over a year now, and I've really enjoyed it. I wanted to see how far I could push this machine, so I started simple and moved my way up to complex parts. And getting started was super easy. It only took a few minutes to assemble, and after powering it on, it walks you through everything, such as scanning the QR code with the Elegoo app to link it to your account. It runs a full self-check and calibration, which only takes about 15 minutes, and then you're basically ready to start printing. This printer also comes packed with a bunch of features. The Centauri Carbon 2 is very similar to the original, but with some really nice upgrades. It's a full Core XY printer with fully automatic calibration, so setup is pretty much hands-off. You've got a 256mm cubed build volume, which is really solid for all-around size. One of, if not the standout feature is the Elegoo canvas system, which allows for 4-color multi-material printing. It also has an RFID system, so if you're using Elegoo filament, it automatically recognizes it with no manual input needed. There's a built-in camera for remote monitoring, spaghetti detection, and time lapses. And the whole combo is $419, which is insane considering the fact you're getting a Core XY 3D printer with multicolor printing capabilities. To begin with, I started simple with my printing journey. This is a flexible skeleton hand printed in basic white PLA. I didn't touch a single setting, I just sent it straight from the slicer to the printer, and it came out perfect. There was no stringing, it had super clean extrusion, and the bottom surface looked amazing. Everything flexed the way it should, and there was no binding or any issues with it. For a first print, this is exactly what you want to see. Next, I wanted to test the multicolor capability of this 3D printer. Now, technically, I could have printed this all at once, but that would have created a ton of waste. And in the slicer, assigning colors and managing all of that was actually really straightforward. So I sent the main body of the police box off to be printed, and this thing came out phenomenal. It took about 16 hours, but the detail is seriously impressive. Even the tiny handles and the lock printed perfectly. You might notice a slightly darker band that runs around the entire print near the sign, and that's because I purged into infill to save on material, and honestly, it was worth it. 3 of these parts had threads on them since they had to be threaded together, and there was no issues or binding whenever they were assembled. Everything smoothly clicked together, and I didn't have to use any super glue. The final result looks incredible. The entire print looked super clean. All of the edges were sharp, and there was no color bleeding between the filaments whenever it changed color. So I have to say, this impressed me a lot. I then decided to throw another print-in-place model at this printer, and it took it like a champ. It printed in about 2 hours, and it popped right off the bed, and everything moved perfectly. None of the parts stuck together, it was just smooth, full rotation on all the parts right out of the printer. The layer quality is super clean too. For something this quick, it's kind of insane. It spins very freely, and this is another great example of the precision and speed of this printer. Alrighty, this is a multicolor print-in-place Pokeball. This took about 13 hours, and it's a pretty complex model with tight tolerances and parts overlapping and sliding over each other. But as soon as I took it off the build plate, it literally separated in my hands without any force needed. And the movement between all of the parts is insanely smooth. Everything slides over each other so freely that it almost doesn't stay closed unless you're physically holding each piece together. There are a couple of tiny cosmetic artifacts on the bottom, but it's nothing that affects how it works. And honestly, for something this complex to work first try was pretty cool. I almost never use silk PLA, and that's because it can be a nightmare to work with sometimes. So I figured this would be a great test. I found this model of a skull with a snake that has tons of surface details, and I decided to slice it and send it to the printer. And it absolutely nailed it. For a 5-hour print, first try, it had no issues whatsoever. I used tree supports, and most of them popped off very easily by hand, but I did have to use some snips. After they were off, the finish looked incredible. The shine from the silk PLA really pops, and the layer lines are barely visible across the entire print. All of the details came out perfectly, especially the scales, which look beautiful. This one really surprised me, and I love the way it looks. And for my last print, I wanted to try something that had to be physically assembled together. So I printed this bonsai piranha plant with each part printing separately in different colors. I then sent all the plates one by one to the printer, and everything came out perfect. I did go a little heavy on the supports on the leaves, so it did take a bit of cleanup, but it was nothing major. Once everything was done, I then used super glue to attach everything together. There was no gaps or weird tolerances. Everything lined up the way it should, and most of them were just a friction fit together. And the final result looks amazing. I love it. It's such a great little desk piece to have. The printer nailed every aspect of this. So overall, with the testing that I've done with this printer, I really enjoy it, and I can safely say that I highly recommend it. The print quality across everything that I've printed has been extremely consistent, very reliable, and everything looks amazing. I had no failures of any kind, and everything printed perfectly first try. This printer is also extremely simple to use. The interface and the slicer are very quick and easy to understand, and it really doesn't take any time to get a print started. The multicolor system, the Elegoo canvas, on this 3D printer was super consistent, and I had no issues with it the entire time I was printing. So all in all, it's compact, very easy to use, extremely reliable, and it's very inexpensive for what you're getting out of this printer. So yeah, I can confidently say that I highly recommend this. I want to say a big thank you to Elegoo for sending me this printer and letting me test this out, and I want to thank you guys for watching this video. All of the links for everything will be in the description below, and I'll see you in the next one.